Guys, Dan Holland here with SolutionToolbox.com. In this video series, I'm going to show you how to build a website using our image-to-web technology. Now, if you watch my previous videos, you saw me create a site using CSS and HTML from scratch. But in this example, I'm going to show you how you can upload your mock-up image and our system can automatically create a website off of that image. So let me show you the image here that we're going to be working with. It's going to be the same site that I used in my previous examples. So here's the actual template that we developed. And the first thing that I want to do to get this template ready is I'm going to go ahead and remove a lot of this text out of here, just so basically I have a clean slate when all the images get imported in, because how this technology works is actually going to slice your image up and drop it in there. So for SEO purposes and for copying and pasting purposes, if you want this text to be selectable on your website, you're going to want to remove it out of here. So what I did is I've created a new template. I've removed all the text. And I've even drawn some lines on here just so I know where I'm going to cut this template up at. So the first thing that I need to do to get started is inside of Site Builder here, I'm going to go to Manage Layouts. And then I'm going to go ahead and create, let me delete this one real quick. I'm going to go ahead and create a new layout, and we'll call this Image to Web Layout. And this time, instead of hitting the Create Layout button, I'm going to go ahead and select the Launch Layout Builder option. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And the first thing that it's going to ask us for is the actual mock-up image itself. So I'm going to go ahead and say Select Files. I'm going to browse in here and find my slice image, upload that. And we can go ahead and say Next. This should open a pop-up for us. You might have to enable pop-ups on your browser, otherwise this might not open up. But what this is a very simple online image editor that loads your image and allows us to slice out the images. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is start slicing my image up. So I'm going to scroll up here. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, make this a little bit easier. And if you look at my original image, you can see the slice lines that I'm going to draw on top of my picture here. So just a few up top, and then we're going to isolate our image rotator. We're going to isolate the jQuery area, and we're going to isolate the content area, and we're going to isolate the footer. So I'm going to grab the slice tool over here, and I'm going to draw my first line. Let's see, we'll go right in here. And let's see, we're going to do another one right down the side here. And isolate the menu here just a little bit. Now for anybody who's ever used image slicing tools such as Photoshop or Fireworks, this works exactly in the same way. Now that I have the header isolated up top there, I'm going to come down here and just have a few more lines I got to draw. So I'm going to cut this area out for our rotator. And then I'm going to isolate our slider here. Now if you make a mistake, there's always the undo buttons over here on the side, so you can undo, or you can simply hit the delete button on any selected line and it'll automatically delete that slice line for you. And then finally down here at the bottom, I'm going to draw one more just to isolate the footer. And then we should be all set. So now that I have my slice lines, I just have to tell the system what these areas are. So I'm going to go ahead over here and select the custom zone area, which is the Z. I'm going to mark this area as a custom zone, which you can kind of see there. And then I'm going to grab the menu area and tell it this is the menu area. And then custom zone again, I'll flag this as a custom zone. I'm going to flag this area down here as a custom zone. I'm going to flag this as my content area. And then finally at the bottom, I'm going to do one last custom zone. Now before we go any farther, we can preview the site, kind of how the system's interpreting it. So if I hit the preview button here, we should be able to see how everything's coming together. So we can see the different slices areas that it created for us. So everything looks good. Now you might run into some problems if you have a more complex design. Some of your slice lines might be off. You'll be able to see it here and you can go back and make some changes to your slices. But this looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. So I'm going to hit the Save button down here. It's going to tell me that my slices have been exported, and it's going to redirect me to the wizard where I can begin customizing this site. Now the first thing that it's going to ask us for is how we want this web page aligned. So in my situation, I want the content to be aligned in the center of the screen, so I'm going to go ahead and select the center. Now we can preview this as we're going along here, so we can kind of see how the site's coming. So now you can see that my site is centered in the middle of the screen here. So I'm going to go ahead and say next. And the next thing that it's going to ask us for is the background image. So I want to go ahead and upload a background image that I've already sliced out here. But basically what I mean by the background image is, since this is going to be centered in my screen, I want it to have the effect that it stretches across the entire browser window, regardless of how big the client's resolution is or how big their screen is. So what I've done is I've sliced out an image, and I'll open it here so you can see it. You can kind of see how this is the background image. It lines up with all the different areas of my website, and then this is going to repeat across the website, giving me that effect that I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and select the file, and we'll say BG Slice. We'll open that. We'll upload. We'll say next. And then it's going to ask me if I want to repeat this. So yeah, I do want to repeat this horizontally across the screen. Also, I can put a background color in, which, since I'm going to have a background image, it doesn't really matter, but I'll go ahead and select the black here, and then we can preview what we've got so far. So now you can see how we got the background image, and now it looks full screen regardless of how big my screen is. So we can move forward onto the font settings, and this is the default font settings for the site. So I'm going to come in here and we'll set this to a gray color. We can either use the color picker provided here, or we can enter in our own color code and then set the default font size there. So we'll say next. So the next thing that we need to do is configure a menu. Since we defined a menu area, it's going to let us do that. So right off the bat, it creates a couple links here for us, but let me open my image and see what we've got. So we've got about six items here in our menu, so I'm going to go ahead and recreate these. So I'm going to click on this guy and remove him, remove this guy. I'm going to go ahead and add the About page. And I will add the Services page. Solutions, Partners, and finally Contacts. Okay. And then down below, I'm going to leave this box checked so it's automatically going to create these pages for me. So next, we're going to move on to the menu style. And it needs a couple pieces of information about our menu, so let's go ahead and type that in. So the first thing is the link width that I need to enter, and I've already measured this on my site, and I know this is going to be about 108 pixels wide. Now it automatically recommends what it thinks the link width should be, but you can change this, of course, and we can preview to see what it's going to look like. Now the link height I know is going to be about 40 pixels, and I'm going to align the links centered on the screen. The Arial font is fine. I'm going to go ahead and let this be a dark gray color. You can type in your own code here, or you can of course pick your own. And finally, the font size, I'm going to go ahead and make this 16 bold. Now we can adjust the paddings, and we can also adjust the coordinates down here. I don't recommend changing that unless you know what you're doing. And we can also preview this right now so we can see what everything looks like. And it looks like we're just a little bit too far on the screen here. Actually, it looks like we have two home links. So I'm going to go ahead and close this and hit the back button here real quick. And I'm going to remove one of these home links just like that. And say next. And now I can put 108 in here. 40. Take a look at this again. And this time, everything appears to be lined up just about right there. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And we can continue to the rollover effect of the menu. So it's going to ask me if I want to have a rollover effect for my menu. And you can see here on my preview that it looks like when we mouse over, we're going to get this red background. So I've already sliced this piece out, and it's going to ask me to upload it here. So I'm going to go ahead and select the file, browse here to the example pieces, let's say menu hover, upload that, say next, and we don't need to enter a rollover color, but the font family, the font color, this time we're going to do white when I mouse over, and once again this will be 16 bold, and we can go ahead and preview this effect. So here you can see the menu items. You need to adjust it just a little bit, but that's something we can change once we're in there. And we can go ahead and say next, finish and preview. And it's the last thing it's going to ask me if I want to use this layout that I just created as my default homepage layout. So we can go ahead and leave that selected, and we'll say close and preview. So here you can see that it opened up the website for us, how it sliced everything. So we've got a little bit of work to do down here in the main content area, because we're going to put our own custom CSS down here. But other than that, we're ready to start configuring the individual areas.